Hello, YouTube family. So welcome to another episode of MoH Health Mondays with Dr. Lambert. So today I have a very important question to ask you all. Do you think that your genetic code plays a greater or lesser role in your health than your zip code? So I'm going to be asking people on the streets today what they think about how their environment impacts their health. Let's find out. So first I asked some community members if they thought their work and living environment affects their health. Do you think that where you live and work plays a role in your health?
I think it does. I moved a lot when I was a child, so there was always a change, I guess, and there was definitely differences from living in like middle of the city and rural towns. And in rural towns, there was like just a lot of clinics, and there wasn't really like a specialized hospital that you could go to or typically attend. So I think like rural areas have more, I guess, less access to the resources they have in the city.
I would think that, access is one thing, but then also just kind of preventative measures are easier in some places than others. So like healthy food is a big part of health in general. So.
Do you think that where you live and where you work actually plays a role in your health?
Yeah, I definitely do think that.
And why do you think that?
I feel like it affects like the food choices I have, and like my peers' choices also, which like influence how I decide to like eat or be active.
I then wanted to find out what people thought about the relationship between their environment, their genetics, and their health. Would you say that genetics would play a greater or lesser role in your health compared to your environment?
Definitely plays a factor as to whether it's more of a priority than or has more of an impact. I don't know. I kind of think that it's a balance.
How about you, Andy?
Well, if I was a coal miner, I think genetics wouldn't make much of a difference because it would pretty much do me in. But if the environment's good, then genetics makes a big difference. So since I'm in a good place, probably genetics.
So what do you ladies think about genetics and environment? Do you think one plays a greater role than the other?
You go first.
I think they both definitely play a role. This is a tough one. I haven't really thought about it a lot, but I guess that depending, like.
So if someone has a history of, say, diabetes or type 2 diabetes in their family, do you think that just because one relative has type 2 diabetes that they would have type 2 diabetes as well? Or do you think that maybe getting adequate exercise or eating healthy or even having reduced stress levels could potentially help?
No, yes, I think the environment can drastically change outcomes like that might be there genetically because of access to healthcare, access to specific types of education, access to even having like access to a gym or food security, and having like the options between different types of foods so you can actually choose. So I think it can change the outcomes of the same genetic thing drastically.
But I do think if you're going to literally just put them side by side and say which one has more effect, I personally think genetics.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like my husband works at Myriad. It's a genetic testing company, and if you have some sort of genetic mutation, sometimes it doesn't matter what your environment is, that's going to affect your life. And that's 100% oftentimes, whereas the environment can sway back and forth.
Have you guys heard of a concept called epigenetics?
I've heard of it, but remind me.
So basically the epi means above, and then there's your genetics afterwards. So ultimately what it means is that your environment, including your diet and your lifestyle, does play a more significant, or does play a role in and whether or not certain genes are turned on or off. So I definitely do agree that your genetics does play a significant role in your health. But there have actually been many studies that have shown that your environment actually plays 2 times a role in your health than actually your genetics.
Oh, wow.
And even 5 times a role in your health health than even medical care and medical procedures. So there's a lot more evidence being shown that environment does play a significant impact in your health, even more so than your genetics. But I'm not saying genetics has no role, but it's just that our environment, we have to consider that as well.
Yeah,
I believe that.
I definitely believe that, yeah.
So then I wanted to find out what members of my community thought about the impact of green space on their health. What is green space, you ask? Green space is an area of trees, grass, and other vegetation. Scientists have shown that individuals who live near an area of green space tend to have a lower risk of cardiovascular disease because they are less stressed and tend to have more elevated moods compared to individuals who live in a city environment where there's mostly concrete. Do you think green space would actually have a significant impact on your health, like living around trees and grass?
Yes, essential.
Yeah, I think so too. We're both pretty partial to like nature too.
Do you think that green space, in other words, trees, flowers, has an impact on whether or not you will be a more or less healthier person?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you guys think about living in like an environment with lots of trees and shrubbery, basically like green space? Do you think green space would have a positive impact or negative impact on your health?
I would definitely say positive, but also that's probably me more towards the mental health side, just because I mean both of us are both very outdoorsy and enjoy having that space available.
Yeah, it's nice to go out and get fresh air. It's very, I don't want to say depressing, but very depressing to stay inside, and I don't know. I would rather go outside and do things, be with the trees than cooped up inside.
So as you just saw in those interviews, more people are starting to realize that their environment or zip code does play a significant role in their health. According to a study done in 2018 by the American Heart Association, it was found that people who have more access to green space, so I'm talking about flowers, trees, and grass, tend to have healthier blood vessels, they tend to have lower stress levels, and they have a decreased risk of cardiovascular disease. So I encourage you all to get outside into the environment that God has made for us to help us to maintain our health, both physically and mentally. So that's pretty much it for this week's MoH Health Monday. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. If you have any comments or would like to send me a topic that you'd like to discuss, just leave it in the comment section below. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.